Hello MATLAB programmers. Today we're going to talk about something called switch statements. It's an alternative to an if, else if, else. We'll start with just a simple input statement and we run this and it asks, are you cold? And I've got the single quote as single quote to specify that I want the user to enter in letters instead of numbers. And let's say I go ahead and type in the word yes. Well, it's going to take my answer and compare it with the different cases. I've got two different cases. One is looking for the word yes, the other is looking for the word no. And if neither of those are a match, we'll go into the otherwise. It's kind of like an else statement. So I'll go ahead and hit enter. Yes, I'm cold. It says put on a coat. I run it again, and this time I say no, I'm not cold. It says have a nice day because it matched the no case. And if I put something else like am I cold? I'll say not really. And then invalid answer. It was looking for yes or no. What about if the user types in capital yes? Well, MATLAB's case sensitive, so capital yes is not the same as lowercase yes, and we're not going to be a match for this. We're not going to be a match for the no case, so we'll go into the otherwise. What if you want it to be able to catch either uppercase yes or lowercase yes? Well, we can switch this to allow for multiple variations of saying yes, either a single character or the word yes. And to allow for more than one thing to match for this case, we'll do curly braces around the entire thing and commas in between each thing we want to match. So I'll do the same thing for the no, and then an N. And we run it again, and this is even more flexible. Are you cold? I'll say capital no and undefined function. Oh, I forgot a single quote there. No big deal. We'll run that again, and we'll say no, I'm not cold. Have a nice day. Run it and say, are you cold? Yes. Put on a coat. All right, so that was an example of a switch statement. An alternative to this would be to do an if, else if, else kind of thing. In this case, because we've got so many different variations, I think the switch statement is a little bit more elegant than using an if statement. All right, let's try one more type of graphing. So we've done a lot of graphing so far. We've done the plot and pie charts and bar charts. And today I want to talk about polar charts. So with polar charts, you, instead of having the Cartesian coordinates with the x and the y, you've got your angles. So I'm going to set up angles. Usually we use theta to talk about angles, and I'm going to say I want every angle for the whole circle from 0, and then we think of it as 360 degrees, but MATLAB is looking for radians, and in radians 360 degrees is 2 pi. Well, this isn't going to create very many points for me because the default is to just count by 1, and I want more than 7 points, so I'll just put in a smaller difference here between each point of 0.1. So now I've got my theta values, and now I need some distance values, and just because I know it's going to make a cool graph, I'm going to go with the same formula here. I'll have the same number of points for my radius as I do for my angles, and actually they're going to be the same values. And then with the polar graph, we're looking at two inputs. The first thing we are going to put in is our theta, our variable that has all those angles, and the next one is the radius for each of these. So I'll just do r instead of a row here. And we wait a second, and then we see this really cool graph, polar graph. And when you're dealing with polar coordinates, since you want your input for the angles to be in radians, it's good to know how to convert from degrees to radians and radians to degrees. And there, you could do it by hand, but there are also some built-in functions. So there's a degree to rad function, and you could pass in either a vector or just a single value. So I said 360 degrees is the same as 2 pi, and we can see that that is true with this function. And we can go the other way. We can go from radians to degrees, and if we were to pass in 2 times pi, we would see 360 degrees.